Ladies and gentlemen, welcome along to the first in a new series of the Football Insomniac, live here on A State of Mind. I am now joined weekly by my co-host on Friday evenings, Callum McFadden from Football CFB. Callum, welcome to A State of Mind.
I'm delighted to join you, Colin. As you know, I'm a big fan of the show, so to be involved means an awful lot, and it's a show that always sparks plenty of debate. So I'm looking forward to having a fair few debates with yourself over the course.
And we have a new time slot here, Fridays at 6 o'clock. It was originally a Wednesday morning show. The debate got so interesting we had to move it to Friday prime time. As Paul says, it's TFI for anyone that remembers back to the 90s. Chris Evans hosting TFI Fridays on Channel 4. You might not see as much swearing and as much nudity as what you did see there, but Callum has promised us if the likes go down, then maybe he'll have to take his top off.
that would be a horror film, not a prime time entertainment show.
Well, if you are watching us, leave a comment on YouTube, subscribe. We're just over 11.2k followers now. Get your comments in, we'll bring them up on screen. We've got a lot to talk about today. And also, if you're on Facebook and on Twitter/Periscope, you can get your points in too, and we'll bring them up. Callum, let's start with this week's biggest talking point in European football, and it is the European Super League debate. Now, I was live on here with Dave Claxon from the Smart Money podcast on Monday night when we were talking about the European Super League. At that point, it looked as if it was going ahead, but it lasted less time than Celebrity's shortest marriage, which, if you look at it, is Britney Spears, I believe. 55 hours she was married to Jason Alexander. This European Super League didn't even last 48 hours. Callum, what a complete shambles this was.
Oh, it was an absolute shambles, and you're right. The memes that are going around saying that it's lasted less than even Sam Allardyce. Obviously, when he was England manager, people forget he'd one game. I think he lasted 67 days, which is admirable for Big Sam when you consider he only get the one game. But no, in reality, it was a power grab by the so-called big clubs, but some of the definitions of big left a lot to be desired. I mean, Tottenham haven't won a league title since 1961. They've only won 2 League Cups in the sort of last 30 years. No FA Cup since 91. So it was a bit embarrassing, some of these clubs that were portraying to be the elite 12 to kickstart it. And I think the moment the German clubs came out and said they wouldn't be entertaining it, I think that was it dead, because PSG, I know they've come out looking good out of this, but I think they would have reluctantly joined in future if it had got started. But as soon as the German club said no way, then it was destined to fail, because you can't have a Super League without Bayern Munich and Borussia Dortmund, in my opinion. So I'm delighted that it's gone.
I mean, you bring up a great point there. The inclusion of Arsenal and Spurs, that made it this sort of Super League. I mean, these are teams that have never won the Champions League. What did they think they were going to do? I mean, I like the meme that was going around of Spurs being the last ones to actually pull out of the Super League. So that basically meant that they were the first ever winners. So congratulations to Spurs for holding on in there. But no, I mean, it was a complete shambles. And by the time that the Chelsea-Brighton game came around, the kind of cracks in this were evident. And as Florentino Perez says, the legacy fans won out. And I mean, this is a week that we're going to look back on in football, where at the start of the week it was like football's ending, and at the end of the week we're going, well, the fans still have a place in the hearts of the clubs, or do they?
That is the big question, and I think that'll only be answered fully if there is real reform now, because a lot of people are celebrating this Super League not happening as if it's the saviour of football, but the new Champions League proposals are dreadful, in my opinion, with the Swiss model. Legacy teams as such getting independent on where they finish in the league. So even if they finish, say Man United finish 7th, because of their history in Europe, they would get in, which for me is a nonsense. I think you have to qualify to get in, or you shouldn't be in. But Roger Mitchell, who gets a lot of stick on Twitter, and rightly so, his caca comments this week left a lot to be desired by so many people. He made a very good point in saying that a lot of these clubs are complaining that they deserve more money and that it should be only the elite that are involved, but they're not complaining with the fact that they finish 4th in their league and get in automatically, whereas clubs like Celtic and Ajax, who have won the competition 5 times between them, have to go through qualifying rounds. So as I say, the only way football will be saved and restored to the fans is if there is real and proper change, which I'll be honest with you, Colin, I'm sceptical. The government down in England have said they're having a fan-led review, which sounds good on paper, but how many times, even in Scottish football, have we seen so-called reviews coming in to change things, and do they really change things other than maybe a report being produced at the end that we can all mull over? Because if the clubs aren't on side with any of these so-called changes, they won't happen. I mean, there's chat, of course, of the 50+1 rule, and the Manchester United fans stormed the training ground and they're demanding that. Do you think there's any chance a Glazer family who have stuck through the nonsense, the justified criticism they've had to put up with, but they see it as nonsense for 16 years? Do you think all of a sudden they're going to say, right, we'll just let fans come in and take 49% of our £3 billion business? Absolutely not. They will fight this. All of these clubs will fight it, and I think the only way you will see a sustained change is if the government legislate for it. But funnily enough, how many times have we heard FIFA and UEFA say that government interference isn't allowed in football? But now that it might help them, it might be allowed. So there's a long way to go in this yet. But as I say, I'm very sceptical that this is the end of elite football, so-called elite football clubs flexing their muscles, because you've seen it with the Premier League in England with their TV deal now. The top 6 clubs get more share of the overseas TV rights than the other 14. The domestic rights are evenly split between all 20, but the overseas rights are slightly changing to reward the Big 6, or the so-called Big 6. So it's got a lot of legroom left in it. It definitely won't come back as a Super League. And Florentino Perez definitely won't be the salesman. But I think that something will come back in future. Something definitely will.
He's got the sort of demeanour of a second-hand car salesman, hasn't he? It's like he's trying to sell you an old bucket that's done 140,000 miles, but he says, it starts every time. That's the kind of car you want. Ideal first-time car. No, he's come out as the complete donkey of the week. He's the first inaugural Football Insomniac donkey of the week.
Yes.
I mean, the fact that he's come out basically and says La Liga sent the fans to the Chelsea game to protest, to stop Real Madrid from leaving the league. I mean, the guy needs to get checked for his own mental health. That was an embarrassing performance. But, I mean, where do we start with this? There's embarrassment all throughout the game on this scenario. The first one, and I'm not getting too political, Boris Johnson chairing an emergency meeting about 6 teams leaving a football Premier League when he missed the first 4 or 5 when the coronavirus outbreak started.
Tells you everything you need to know, and there's a great report today from Miguel Delaney of The Independent, who's a really strong writer, that Boris Johnson apparently, I'm assuming via Zoom, met with Ed Woodward on Saturday.
Sacked him?
So they were meeting together. What were they talking about? I know opposition parties have called minutes to be released. It's just, I think there's a lot of legroom in this story yet. I wouldn't be surprised to hear if there were people who were involved in it who are claiming that they weren't, or claiming they were aghast by it, but only at the last minute when they realised it would be bad press for them. Because if the minutes are released and it was a chat about fans getting back into stadiums, etc., then fair enough. But for Boris Johnson to meet Ed Woodward on a Saturday, these plans to kick off on a Monday and then be dead by the Wednesday, they're just, I don't know, there's something foul with it. That's all I'm saying.
The question that still remains unanswered for me is what happens next. And I guess there's kind of 2 sides of what happens next. The first side is what happens to these 12 clubs. Now, for me, I think the calls for them to be punished by their own league are completely justified. I mean, they tried to bring football into disrepute, and it's something we've seen in Scottish football quite a lot, is clubs getting charged with bringing the game into disrepute. These teams managed to do this. Not only did they do that, they completely went against everything that the clubs had been set up for. The fans were completely in revolt, and it was almost as if, and there was one owner quoted on Sky Sports News as saying, "We don't really care what the fans think. We're going to continue to do it anyway." I mean, to show that complete disregard, these owners have to pass a fit and proper person's test. How they managed to do that and come up with a Super League is beyond me. The second part of that is, what do UEFA do? Now, all these teams allegedly left the European Club Association, which you have to be a member of to be involved in the Champions League and the UEFA Europa League. Now suddenly they're just going to walk back in as if nothing's happened. That can't be allowed to happen, surely, Callum.
It shouldn't be allowed to happen, but unfortunately, I think it will. There's even suggestions that UEFA offered the Big Six in England extra money to pull out.
Is that not what they wanted in the first place?
Exactly, and the way it makes you think, was this just a power play by potentially the Big Six English clubs? Because when you look at the likes of Barcelona, they're really struggling financially at the moment. Juventus have been open about the fact that they're struggling financially. Real Madrid as well. I'm not a fan of the Super League, Colin. Let me get that straight. I can understand.
Just for the avoidance of doubt, Callum's not a fan.
No, absolutely, but I can understand why Barcelona, Real Madrid, Juventus want it and probably need it, because they are in a massive amount of debt. I mean, Barcelona's accounts are very grim reading, even if they're not a Barcelona fan. And I think they clearly do need more money, but at the same time, they should be fiscally aware. I mean, the man I've got behind me there, Messi, best player in the world, arguably the best player of all time. But when his salary was leaked, it made you wince. But as I say, for me, the best player to ever kick a ball. But you're talking about nearly 1.5 million euros a week, and you think, and that's
he's not short of a few, Bob.
You know,
he's not short of a few, Bob. That's for sure.
No, absolutely, and I think, as I say, the big English clubs, because of the Premier League, don't necessarily need. Well, in my opinion, they shouldn't need extra income because they get billions every 3 years, which they should be able to use and spend accordingly. So for me, from their point of view, was it a power play to get maybe some more leverage from UEFA so that when the next Champions League structure comes up, maybe after this one, which is going to be controversial when fans really realise what's going on, that they've got more of a say. I really don't know, because the Premier League, for all of its faults and everything that people criticise it for, maybe being sanitised in terms of atmosphere, ticket prices being extortionate. As a business model, as a football league, it's exceptional. It does exactly what you would want it to do if you were in charge of a league. It makes money all across the world in every continent. It's managed to create lucrative pre-season tours for even teams like Tottenham. And I don't mean to slag Tottenham. I know I've done that maybe twice now, but Tottenham can feasibly go to, say, Miami on a tour and it'll be treated like a big occasion, whereas 25 years ago, if Spurs turned up Miami, I don't think anyone would care. And the likes of Teddy Sheringham and Jurgen Klinsmann back in those days could probably go fishing and not be bothered, you know, whereas now they would be absolutely swarmed and mobbed. So from a league's point of view, the Premier League has done everything you would want it to do if you were in that league. It's made you incredible amounts of money if you're a top club, or even if you're one at the bottom. So to see them potentially turn their back on that to make just even more money on their own, I found really, really bizarre. But I suppose we'll never really know the truth of it, because you never find out the truth with these things until years down the line. Maybe when someone like Ed Woodward releases a book, we'll find out about it. But until then, I think we're going to be second guessing ourselves for a long time yet.
That could be a Christmas bestseller. We are live on A State of Mind's YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. Do get your comments in. I'm going to bring a couple of them up in a second. I just wanted to touch on something you mentioned there. The big clubs. Big clubs. Now, if we go back 10 years, are City a big club? Really? I mean, this is only just at the start. So what is it? Is it money that makes you a big club? Is it history that makes you a big club? I mean, we're talking about Arsenal and Spurs being involved in here. Arsenal are potentially going to finish 10th in the Premier League this season. It's all about money, and that's exactly what John McCaw comes in to say. Let's face it, this all happened because teams can't compete with the English Sky money. Now, the thing that I thought was particularly hilarious was this outrage from Sky before even any announcement had been made. It was a case of, this is ruining football. Never mind what Sky's been doing for the last 30 years with English football down south, to the point where you've got a team maybe playing at 11:30 on a Saturday morning, a couple of days after playing in Europe. You've got fans travelling the length and breadth of the country for a 3 o'clock kick-off on a Sunday afternoon. In fact, 3 o'clock kick-off on a Sunday afternoon would be pretty reasonable. It's usually about 6 or 7 o'clock at night when they go down there. And they're travelling all over the country just to suit the Sky cameras. So Sky to have this moral outrage, it was just a complete joke. Gary Neville was spot on in what he says. But he's also someone that's ploughing a lot of money into another team at Salford, which is giving them a financial advantage. So I take it with a pinch of salt. But it is, as you said, Callum, it all comes down to the greed of these owners. And I tell you what, if you look at the Champions League reforms, which is another time for another show, it's basically the Super League without the name.
Oh, absolutely. The new reforms, as you say, I'm sure we can cover that in detail in the coming weeks. But if those reforms go through as they are, other than the fact that UEFA will be in charge of the money pot and they will make some money from it themselves, what's the big difference? As I mentioned earlier, the fact that you can have so-called historical wildcard entries, this isn't a tennis tournament in Dubai that's set up to attract maybe 5,000 people at a sort of beach arena. This is supposed to be the elite European football competition. Never mind the fact that champions like Celtic, Ajax, and obviously this year Rangers in Scotland will have to go through 3 or 4 qualifying rounds, whereas teams can swan in at 4th. You could potentially have a team swanning in who finished like Arsenal. And I don't think Arsenal would get in using that wild card. That shows you how bad a state they are in. But the fact that you could feasibly, Man United, a Real Madrid, a Barcelona, they could have a freak season, finish 9th, and then still turn up at the top table and hoover up some of the money. That for me is just disgusting, and it's wrong, and I think that's the next thing that has to happen. I saw Ilkay Gundogan, the Man City player, was complaining about the number of games that he'll have to play, and some people have come back and said, "Well, you're earning 200 grand a week, so I'll wrap it up." But
I suck up.
I think that's a debate that I think could be had, but the only problem with that is, Colin, that's been approved. And I saw a tweet the other day, I think it was one of the SPFL accounts, a fan account, saying that, call me a cynic, but they announced the Super League on the Sunday. These reforms by UEFA go through on the Monday, Tuesday. Super League's dead by Wednesday, and fans think they've won. Whereas, as you've said, when the reality sets in, what will they really think? Because if a team like Celtic, a team like Ajax, a team that's won their domestic league, if they miss out on the Champions League in 2024 when the new reforms come in, for a team that's finished 8th or 10th, you may as well just fold the whole thing and forget about it, because there's nothing elite about that whatsoever.
No, it's the Champions League, they call it, but it's not even the Champions League. Half of the teams that win it aren't even the champions of their own league. It is, and by all intents and purposes, a European Super League already. Just going to bring some of the comments up. John McCaw again agreeing with me. Gary Neville is a biggest cheek, considering his League One team can pay better wages than Aberdeen. Strange Love the Doctor coming in here saying, "Hi fellas, by today's standard, a big club is a club carrying over £1 billion in debt. Now grab your calculators. How long in weeks would 1,000,000 seconds be? Now how long's 1,000,000,000 seconds?" I'm sure somebody will come in and give us that answer, but I get the point that you're trying to make here. And Liam McDade on Facebook, where was Celtic, Ajax, Benfica, who've won the European Cup, and Man City and Arsenal have not, and they get into this Super League? It is all about the money. Now, if you are watching, do leave some comments and we'll bring them up. I'm even going to bring this one up from David Bradley. Is that a hospital dress, big man? It's not. It's a good Lyland Scott t-shirt. I can see where you're coming from, but this one will probably get hung back up and never brought out again. Cheers, David. Robert Baker coming out here saying Spurs will have a DVD out for this 48 hours in the Super League. Now, we're going to go on to Spurs now, and we're going to go on to the other big story that broke down south this week, and it was Jose Mourinho's departure from Spurs. We're going to discuss Jose Mourinho's managerial career in a whole in a minute. Wow, that took so long to get out there. I do apologise. But Callum, he joined the club in November 2019, departs April 2021. 86 matches, 44 wins, 19 draws, 23 defeats for a win percentage of just over 51%. Is that a failure at Spurs? Was Jose Mourinho a failure?
I think over the piece you have to say yes. I think the timing of his sacking tells you everything you need to know, because I think if he was to win this cup Sunday against Man City, he would then herald it as a massive success, given the team that he had, like he did with Man United when he finished second. I mean, there's that advert for the bookmaker, who I won't mention, where he talks about finishing second being a real achievement. And see, to be honest with you, Colin, I think Daniel Levy's acted to avoid that happening. I think if he was to win the Carabao Cup, he would have left maybe or been sacked in the summer and said, well, I won more trophies than Pochettino. I've done something Spurs haven't done since, I think, 2008. And I think he would have made it all about him, as he always does, you could argue. And I think Daniel Levy if there's one big ego at Spurs, it's Daniel Levy. You know, Daniel Levy want to take the credit when Spurs won this trophy. He'll want to say it was the infrastructure of the club. He'll want to somehow put the new stadium in there as a reason they've been successful. And I think if Mourinho had stayed and was able to sort of hoover up most of the credit, I don't think Levy would be able to stomach that, particularly when they could finish as low as 7th or 8th in the league. I mean, the fact they've not made a sustained effort for the top 4 this season under him is very poor. The Europa League collapse against Zagreb for me was the biggest alarming moment for Mourinho, because there's one thing about Mourinho you can always say, and it's the fact that he will be strong in cup competition. When it comes to a knockout, when he was at Man United, he came out and said, I am prioritising the Europa League so I can win a trophy. And he went on and he was able to win it. And people can debate whether Man United should celebrate Europa League or whether they shouldn't, but he was able to claim that as an achievement. Whereas with Spurs, other than this Carabao Cup, which he obviously won't get the chance to win, there's nothing he can possibly say that was a success. I mean, one of the things that made me laugh is people saying, oh, he got Harry Kane playing and he got hung by something. Those guys were top talents and were playing really well before Mourinho arrived. And Kane's been the Golden Boot winner in the Premier League twice already. So I don't think Mourinho can claim credit for Harry Kane's form or so. So I think if that's what people are calling a success, then you and I should get involved in this managerial game, Colin. Maybe we'll pitch up at a Barcelona and say we get Messi playing and take the pats in the back for that.
Hey, Callum, don't discuss these ideas on air, because somebody will go and steal them, right? Or somebody will come out with a story and it'll be in the back papers tomorrow that we're going to take over some club. I like the idea, though. No, I mean, you're talking about a guy that's now had just short of 1,000 games in management, starting away back in 2000 when he took over at Benfica, right through to Spurs when he departed the other day. His win percentage overall sits around 64%, which is extremely impressive for a manager. But there was a point you discussed before we came on air. Now, for him to be managing a big team, the big team's expectation is you win every game, or you win as many games as possible. But since he departed Real Madrid, and that's away back in 2013, his win percentage at Chelsea, Man United and Spurs, it's kind of been hovering around the 55% mark. And when you're managing a big team like that, it's just, you can see why they let him go. It's not good enough, because he hasn't won enough. When you look at his performances at Man United, his best finish was second, but even at that, it was miles behind. I think it was City who won the league. Spurs, he took them from 14th when Pochettino left up to 6th last year. I think they're sitting 6th now as well. A couple of points off the top 4, but when you hire someone with the pedigree of Jose Mourinho, you're thinking titles and trophies, not just top 4.
No, absolutely, and you're right. When you consider the Porto era, that was exceptional. Obviously, if you look at it from a Celtic perspective, it would break your heart. But with Porto, he won that UEFA Cup, and then he went on to win the Champions League. So I think for all the pain that some people might look at that with, he went on to achieve real and true greatness. You could argue the next year when he took that Porto side to the Champions League, they beat Man United at Old Trafford, the famous running down the touchline. He pitches up at Chelsea, and albeit, yes, you can say, rightly so, Chelsea are a sort of new money club, which they are. They hadn't won a league, I think, since the 50s, the 55, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
He comes in, he wins their first title in 50 years, he retains it. And obviously, a lot of people talk about Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool and Guardiola's Man City, but Mourinho was hitting those 90-point marks in 2004-5 and 5-6. So he was able to hit those marks, albeit maybe not with the same swashbuckling style. But he was hitting high point totals. They won the league at Chelsea by conceding, I think it was 16 goals when they had Carvalho and Terry, and they brought Ashley Cole in, of course.
Makalele,
Paulo
and
Ferreira.
the famous Makalele role that was created for him.
And I think for me, that was when he was at his peak. Obviously, Inter Milan, I would argue as well, was a spectacular job. The treble, of course, that he won. Again, you could say it was workman-like football, and it was naturally defensive. We all remember those games against Barcelona where I think they got a man sent off, and they still managed to hold Barcelona, and then they obviously beat them. And I think he's a character who always seemed to work well when the chips were down, and it was us against the world. But the problem I think he's got now, post Inter Milan, even when he came back to Chelsea second time, even post Real Madrid even, is when the problems in the siege mentality start, it seems to be him that's caused the problems for the siege mentality to start. Whereas before it would be, Wenger's having a go at me, Sir Alex is having a go at me in Italy, or the Juventus, and obviously the situation that was going on in the mid 2000s he would reference and stuff like that. And you could understand him creating that mentality. Whereas at Real Madrid, he fell up with his players and lost the dressing room. At Chelsea, the league success, which was very good again, he played some decent football with Fabregas coming in, Costa, Hazard.
Mm-hmm.
Then he has a fallout with the physio on live television in the first game of the season, completely disrespects her to the point where she leaves and ends up taking action against the club. That didn't make him popular. The league defence was embarrassing. They were sitting near the relegation zone when he left Chelsea. He goes in at Manchester United. He gets a Europa League, he gets a League Cup. Again, though, for Man United, is that true and sustained success? It isn't. And the thing at Man United, a lot of people talk about the style of football, actually. He brings in Paul Pogba, who goes and wins the World Cup. He's just won the World Cup, and I know he's a polarising figure. You would expect your manager to say it's great to have a World Cup winner. First thing Mourinho says, yeah, he can only do that for France. And you think, how are you going to get the best out of this guy week in, week out, when you're essentially belittling the achievement of winning the World Cup and saying, it's France, he does that for them. You know, it's your job to get the best out of him. And I know Pogba's one of these figures in sort of modern football that you either love or you loathe, and I can fully understand that. But Mourinho, he's not been able to get the best out of a group of players for a long, long time now. You can always look back at Man United or even Tottenham now, as I say, with Son and Kane, and you can maybe pinpoint a couple of players that got better under him. But as a whole, the team just goes backwards. And the alarming thing for Spurs and for him, it went backwards at an alarming rate. You normally get 3 years, as we talked about off air, Colin. You normally get year one of building something or winning a title. Year two, he's normally really strong. And year three, it starts to fall apart. And maybe some people accuse him of planning his exit. Obviously, you need to know him to make that judgment. But with Spurs, it was like, right, he's taken over for 6 months. Last year, he was dancing down the touchline at finishing fifth. And then he's gone this year, and there's no trophy, there's no Champions League place, and there's just real anarchy again. There's rumours of Kane leaving, and there's just more questions than answers. So, in terms of Jose Mourinho at the top level, if you're talking about the so-called elite, we go back to your Bayerns, your Liverpool, even your Real Madrid. I know they've been up to skullduggery with this. Do I think a club like that would hire him again? I'll be honest with you, I don't think so. I think his next option is international football. I think maybe even back in Portugal, Sporting Lisbon look as if they're going to win the title this year. Conceição at Porto is very highly rated in the continent. If he was to move on, I don't know if Porto could raise the money to tempt him, but would they maybe tempt him back and say, right, come back and sort of relive your youth and try and bring some of the old Mourinho back, potentially? And of course, there's crazy rumours that will link him with Celtic at the moment. There'll be crazy rumours that even if Leo change manager, that will link him with a club like Leo because he knows Campos, the sporting director. So there'll be crazy rumours surrounding him. But as I say, for me, I think he'll go international. Could be Portugal after the Euros, you never know. Or, as I say, I think he might go back to Portuguese domestic football because Porto and Benfica have had really poor seasons in comparison to their normal seasons. So he might be tempted to go in there and in a relatively easy league for him, given the resources that Porto, Benfica and Sporting have over the other clubs. If you don't finish in the Champions League in that league, then Mourinho, you're done, full stop, you know. So I think that's where you might see him next. But the things that have let him down, tactically, he's always been defensive. So I don't think the tactics have necessarily been the be-all and end-all. I think it's a man management and the relationships. When was the last time a player came out batting for Mourinho saying he was this, that, and the next thing? It's always the same guys they wheel out. Lampard, Joe Cole, even someone like a Materazzi. You never speak to someone current and hear him talk about Mourinho and his impact and the way he was. It seems to be that era of player that backs him up. And I think, unfortunately for him, that just sums up the situation he's in. He's yesterday's man, I think, at that top level now, in my opinion anyway.
And I'll give you a wee chance to get your breath back there, Kellen. That was almost like a 5-minute rant against Jose Mourinho. No, I mean, what can I say that you didn't say in that sort of last couple of minutes? No, it is strange timing, I think, that he departs Spurs on the kind of eve of the Carabao Cup final. As you said, perhaps if he'd won it, it gives him more leverage to stay at the club, even if they don't finish in the top 4 this season. There's a point being brought up by someone who is watching. I'm just going to scroll up to it now. And now I can't. Yeah, there you are, Bill Smith. Surprised they couldn't get a tune out of Dele Alli. Now, you mentioned there about the fallouts that he's had with players before. The Dele Alli one is the one that really surprises me. I mean, he's a guy that is a quality footballer, someone that wasn't really given a chance at the club. Someone that wasn't given a chance at the club. It was rumoured that he was going to be departing the club to go to... Callum's just disappeared from us for a second. We'll bring him back in.
Go, can you hear me?
Go, Callum. We can hear you now. I'm just saying Dele Alli was supposed to be heading to PSG, it looked like, in January. And again, he stayed at the club. I think his last start might have been in that FA Cup tie against the lower league side. And, I mean, for a guy of his quality to not give him those sort of minutes on the park, it kind of sums Jose Mourinho up. When he doesn't like someone, he doesn't pick them, and that's it. That's completely it. I like the idea of him potentially taking on the international management scene. I think he is moving himself away from the day-to-day management. I don't think he has it in him to go out and develop a player in the way that he used to be able to do. And as you said, that kind of discussion about Paul Pogba and how he always does it for France but not for Man United sort of summed it all up. Do you know what? Jose Mourinho has a shelf life, as we said, of 3 years. He's never been at a club any more than 3 years. Now, in that time, you're talking something in the region of about 150 games. He'll not have to manage that many games if he's an international manager, despite the fact it feels as if there's an international break every couple of weeks. It probably will help extend his career. And do you know what? I didn't think before we came on air, but you completely sold me on it. Jose Mourinho is the next Portugal manager. Get your money on it off the back of a Callum McFadden.
Well, you say that. Maybe he could be the Scotland manager if Steve Clarke fancies a jaunt back down south. Who knows? But I think.
Hold on. Are you trying to tell me that Jose Mourinho will try and coach Ollie McBurney?
If he can get a tune out of him, then he is a miracle worker, Colin. Then see everything.
Special one.
Everything I've said about him maybe being a busted flush, I will take back. If McBurney, if he can get him to score for Scotland, then he can walk in water as far as I'm concerned.
We'll talk about McBurney another time. I could have an hour and a half rant on how he shouldn't even be a professional footballer. But yeah, I'm just bringing up some of the points that came in here. Strangelove the Doctor, a hungry Jose, or Jose, depending on how you want to pronounce his name, that wants to be a real manager for a real club like Celtic, then aye. However, the shadow he's recently been under in the Premiership, no thanks. And let's be honest, if you're not Russell Boyce, you're not driving the Mourinho megabus. And it's definitely not happening, right? It's not happening. Russell's coming on shortly. He might tell us otherwise.
I think, see, just on that, Colin, very quickly, say for instance there was a way Celtic could somehow tempt Mourinho. Mourinho would be awful with the Celtic rebuild at the moment because Mourinho likes established footballers to work with, and Celtic need maybe 5 or 6 players to come in key positions, and you're not going to be able to afford to go out and get 5 or 6 established players, and you know what it's like. He will only play a youth player so that he can harp on about it in years to come. He famously went on a rant years ago about giving Morata his debut, and it was pointed out to him he played him for 13 minutes in a game they were already winning like 3-0. He was still pride of play saying, no, I gave him his big break.
Oh, Scottish FM ref coming in. Harry Kane's been at 4 clubs in England and all of them have won more English top league titles than Spurs. So what we're going to do is when we extend the European Super League that we're building, because we're going to build our own league, we're going to have Leyton Orient, Millwall, not so much, Norwich and Leicester. That's what we're going to do. So that's the plan going forward. But, I mean, let's talk about another big club that's really fallen by the wayside at the minute. And we're going to make the trip to Germany now and discuss FC Schalke 04. Now, this is a team that only 2 seasons ago were in the last 16 of the Champions League. Then this weekend, a 1-0 defeat to... this is terrible. I'm going to get this completely wrong here. A 1-0 defeat to Arminia Bielefeld. Someone that's German might correct me here. Relegated them to Bundesliga 2. for the first time in 30 years. Now, Callum, they finished second only a couple of seasons ago, and in the last 3 seasons, it's went 14th, 12th, and now relegated. What is going on?
It's crazy. And in terms of this, obviously, like yourself, Colin, I've been looking at the results, and I like to look at the Bundesliga results in the table every week. I'll be honest and say that I don't get a chance to watch a live game every single week from that league, and I think just for me, just the observations that I made before I spoke to other people that follow closer than me was when David Wagner was there, the former Huddersfield manager. When football came back after the lockdown, I felt like every single game I watched from the Bundesliga, you just seen him with his head in his hands, and they continued with him for a sustained period of time, and I think they should maybe be credited for giving him a degree of loyalty, but undoubtedly in the end, I think they were too loyal to him. They gave him too much time. And then I've spoke to Marie Schutter-Bochum, who writes for Football CFB, who is based in the States, but is a Schalke supporter and originally from Germany. And she said that the biggest problem that Schalke have had is investing big money in players they can't necessarily afford. They paid 27 million euros for Brilin Brulo, which was a record fee for the club. He was supposed to be the next big up and coming thing from FC Basel in Switzerland. Mm-hmm. He came in, he was pacey, he was powerful, but he just didn't hit the net at the rate of knots they needed. They signed Yevhen Konoplyanka, again, a footballer who, when he was playing in Ukraine, was lauded as being potentially one of the best players in the world for a couple of years to come. It never really materialised that way for him. It didn't work out at Schalke. He had an on and off spell with Sevilla. He was 17 million euros. And then the big one, who's getting an extortionate amount of money by all accounts, and he's still at the club, is Nabil Bentaleb, who used to be at Tottenham. There's rumours he's finally going to leave the club this summer. I think his contract's close to expiring, but he was a big name signing. He came in. He was supposed to be the man that would help shore up that midfield. And given the results, as you say, Colin, they're in the relegation zone. He's certainly not been a midfield enforcer. So I think they've been too loyal to managers. They've invested a lot of money that at times maybe they can't afford. And they've also went down the route that worries me with football. And I think every football club can be guilty of it. When you get through a tough time, we'll bring back some of the old heroes. So they've brought back Kolasinac, who was at Arsenal. They've tried to bring back a few others that they'd had in the past as well. And I think
Huntelaar as well there is up front.
I think that's a dangerous game. I mean, you know what it's like. If you support Liverpool years ago when Robbie Fowler came back to the club, he wasn't the same player. He was a lot older. He didn't really have the same movement. He could still score the odd goal, but he wasn't the same player. You even see it with Manchester United a lot. When bring Ronaldo back, or even Arsenal when they brought Henry back, and albeit it was for a couple of months, it never seems to work as well the second time around. And I think that's something that's cost them. And the other thing that, let's be honest with you, is really going to cost them maybe long term is missing out on Ralf Rangnick. He was supposed to be coming in to lead the technical side of the club, heralded as a saviour by fans and pundits alike. He would come in and start from the scratch, but he got mixed signals from the board. He turns it down. The negotiations fail, and then now they're relegated. So it seems to be a club that they've not just had that slow decline, it's been a real bump and they're gone.
It's been incredible. I mean, this is a team that went through 5 managers this season. As you mentioned, they had that loyalty to Wagner, but when he left, the loyalty seemed to leave with it. They brought in Manuel Baum. They brought back Hoob Stephen for his 4th spell at the club. Now, if anyone that isn't aware of Hoob Stephen, he's almost like a club legend at Schalke. He won the UEFA Cup for them back in '97, and he was there as an interim boss for 4 days. They brought him in for 4 days and they managed 2 games. After that, they brought in Christian Gross, a name that is completely known to a lot of people that have watched the English Premier League when he had his spell at Spurs. And then finally, they ended it with Dimitrios Gramosis, and he's the one that's led them down. Now, each of those managers have had only 1 win each this season, and all in different competitions, because Schalke have only had 2 league wins this season. They went winless in their first 14 Bundesliga games, and by all accounts, it looks as if that they're in trouble financially and could go bankrupt. As you said, it's not just a kind of slow decline; it's just went downhill at a rate of knots. And to me, the situation is very similar to what happened at Hamburg a couple of seasons ago.
Absolutely.
And Hamburg have not recovered yet. they still don't look as if they could be coming out of the second Bundesliga this season. So, I mean, could this be the end of Schalke as we know it?
As soon as you were talking about them there, Hamburg was the team that kept coming to mind. I mean, I think it's going to be a real challenge for them in the Bundesliga too. It really is. Obviously, you get the champions who come straight back up. But see, when you've had a season like Schalke have had, to bounce back and turn form on and off like a tap very rarely happens. I mean, I'm sure many of our viewers and listeners have watched Sunderland Till I Die, and you watch them come down from the Premier League under Moyes, and the fans are thinking, right, here we go, we're going to get back to the Premier League. We've got the likes of Cattermole, a couple of experienced pros that have stayed with the club. We'll sign younger players that are used to that environment and that division, and we'll bounce straight back. And they ultimately went down again. Now, I don't think Schalke will go down again. Of course I don't. But I don't think it's going to be as easy as people think, because you mentioned Hamburg, a massive club, a club that the likes of Raphael van der Vaart has played for and had really successful times with. And now look at them; they don't look as if they are convincingly coming back this season, if they do at all. And if they don't, that'll be several years in the second Bundesliga. And the example we can always use, because the English game is so well talked about across the globe, is the fact that look at teams like Nottingham Forest, look at teams even like Leeds before they came back now. Just because you're a massive club in stature and stadium size doesn't mean you're guaranteed to play top flight football. And as you say, Colin, it seems to be collapsing not only on the park but collapsing off the park as well, which is a big worry.
And I'm just going to bring this point up. We do have our guest waiting. Russell Boyce will be joining us in just a minute to go over the Super 7 for this weekend. But John McCossie, did you not say Schalke was going to be another team for the European Super League because they are rich? They're massively rich, right? But it's because of the sponsorship. And the sponsorship seems to be coming away from it. Now, everybody keeps going on about Gazprom. Gazprom are all over the Champions League. They're all over the Europa League. They're one of the big kind of financial backers of Schalke. And they're not going to want to do it if Schalke aren't in the Europa League, in the Champions League, or even in the Bundesliga. So, I mean, that drop from the money that you're getting in the Bundesliga down to Bundesliga 2, it's frightening for a club like Schalke. And Hamburg really struggled when they went down there, as you said, and I don't even think they're going to come back up this year.
Well, that's the thing. There's no guarantee of success, and that's the thing. Just the thing that people sometimes forget, I always think, is when you go down to that level of football, people assume you're the big hitter, you'll come straight back up, you'll come out punching. For so many of the other sides, the fact that Schalke are going to be in their domestic league and you're not drawing them in a cup is going to be massive for them. It's going to be like 2 cup finals every single year. And I think that's something that people sometimes forget, because I think sometimes in a cup game it's easy to turn up like Tottenham did at Marine, as we talked about earlier, where you're the big hitter and you can feel that respect. But when you're in that same league, that respect goes out the window. It's worth 3 points, and if you get off to a shaky start, then other teams can smell blood and they'll go for it. As I say, look at Leeds, they went down to League One. Look at Forest, they went down to League One. Stranger things have happened in football, so they need to really root the club out of the dead wood from top to bottom, both on the park and on the technical side, because as you mentioned, if you're bringing back a manager for his 4th spell, then you're in desperate straits.
Yeah, and we're going to discuss another team a bit closer to home that are in desperate straits as the final topic to close off today. But I mean, he's waiting in the guest room, so it would be rude not to bring him in. A lot of people that watch A Celtic State of Mind or A State of Mind will know him from being on the Scream of Celica podcast, as well as being part of the Monday Club. He's also our Pakistani agent. He gets us on Indus Sport News. If anyone hasn't seen it, Lawrence Connolly was on yesterday. Go and check that one out. I'm going to bring him in because he's sitting there just totally buzzing at his introduction that I've just gave him. Russell Boyce, welcome to Football Insomniac.
Yes, mate. Absolute pleasure, Colin. I thought the intro could have been better, but I'll take that, mate. No, I mean, I think you missed a living legend, but it's all good, mate. It's all good. One step at a time. No, good to see you. Thanks so much for having me on. Nice one.
Just before we begin and discuss what is the next segment of the show, which is the Super 7, we were just discussing José Mourinho a couple of minutes ago.
No, I haven't, mate.
And Callum's not on the Mourinho megabus.
Don't care, man. Don't care what anyone says. I don't care what anyone says about him. He's the best manager in the world. He's done things with clubs that no one else has done. Modern football is overrated in terms of the technical aspect. Oh, it's all about, these phases of play that all get discussed in that now. Jose Mourinho won it with Porto against a European elite that I would describe at that time of players that dwarf what the current big boys have at their disposal. And he did it in a manner, he did it two ways. He did it with Deco at Porto, and he proper played football, right? They played football, that Porto team. He then knew how to go the other way. One thing, always remember this with Jose Mourinho, who's got the record goals in La Liga and who's got the record points. Against Pep Guardiola's free scoring, never boring.
Never boring.
Right. You know who got them. That's not somebody who doesn't know how to adapt. And for me, I suppose I was part of the narrative at one stage, watching him thinking, is these methods... Oh, then the beauty of that Amazon series comes out, and you watch him and you go, if you're not buying into that, this guy talks tactics. He talks them through, step by step. He's all over it, but he also does the inspiration thing. I think for tough talking to be getting now, becoming an exodus of football, what do you want? A soft talking Ryan Giggs?
Huh? Oh, hey, we've got to watch about the Ryan Giggs scenario. If you've not seen
it, it's all over the news, mate. No, it's all over the news, mate. It's all over the news.
Exactly.
You look at Jose Mourinho, and he's treated like this guy who's nasty to everyone. It's nonsense, utter nonsense. And anyone who thinks Jose Mourinho wouldn't be the best choice to be Celtic manager is kidding themselves on. I mean, come on.
This was set up for Russell just to come in, wasn't it? A Friday tea time show. Work's done for the week. Russell's ready. He's on it for the weekend. That's him.
I'll be honest.
Tomorrow, mate. I'm like this all the time, man. I'm another sport, mate. Honestly, just put the keys in the ignition in the morning. I jogged 3.5 miles this morning, mate. You know what I mean? At 8 a.m. cross country, the lot, man. I've done 60 press ups today. I'm bonkers, full stop, mate. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's just the way I am, man. And Jose Mourinho would have me doing 100 press ups. That's what gets me.
Can we have Mourinho with Keane as the co-driver?
Mate. Well, look. No, wait a minute. I drive the bus. But can we get two seats in the passenger end? Yes, we can put a wee double seat there. And by the way, a pleasure to meet you, Carl, mate. I've seen a lot of your work. Well done, by the way. You get some fantastic guys. And I think it's a good combo you two working on this, by the way. Nice one.
Maybe we'll need to have you on more regular, Russell, just to
give
everybody that.
Man. I'm being so
sound the weekend. Just here's Lawrence Conley coming in, famous for being on Indie Sport News. The man, the myth, the legend, Russell Boyce. And Liam Dominic Collo coming in saying, is it allowed for Russell Boyce to be on any other day except for a Monday and a Tuesday? It is. It's Friday. It's TFI. Russell, you remember the TFI?
Liam, I just signed a photo of myself for Liam. He knows I know he's a best. I just sent one off. So I didn't listen to him, mate. He's kidding himself on.
Let's get down to business here. We're talking about the Super 7. It's the 7 games that we're going to be discussing ahead of the weekend. Yeah. For anyone who follows me on Twitter, you can go on and see our predictions. I'm at Colin88Watt. Russell, I think you retweeted it as well. First game we're going to discuss, Aberdeen versus Dundee United. Before we go in and give our scores, I'll give you a quick breakdown. Every time we have a guest on, we're going to go through 7 games that are coming up that weekend. You'll get 1 point for a correct score, 1 point for a correct result, 3 points for a correct score, and if you get all 7 right, then you should have went to the bookies and put it on. But we'll start with Aberdeen versus Dundee United. Russell, what are you going for? Do you want me to remember you? Because it was yesterday you gave me the scores.
What did I say?
You went 1-0 Aberdeen.
1-0 Aberdeen, yeah, because, tell me the scores, but I'll give the reasons why. I think Aberdeen don't score a lot of goals.
Correct.
But I also think they're on the crest of a wave with the Stephen Glass appointment. There's a lot of newfound optimism at Aberdeen, and rightfully so. I think Scott Brown joining, and I've got a serious Aberdeen fan. I know he lives in the States now, and he's mentioned me all the time about Lee Griffiths, and he seems to think that's going to happen. I'm telling you right now, he's. I'm not saying he's got his ear at the ground because obviously he's in the States, but he also knew Stephen Glass was going to get the job. That's the truth. He called that before it was announced. he seems to think the Griffith thing is very, very possible. And I just right now, when you're talking about guys like that joining this club, it's a wave, and it's a wave of optimism. But you can't iron out all the creases straight away. And I think Stephen Glass has a team that toil for goals. But I just think there's optimism around them right now. They'll beat Dundee United in the New Firm derby.
Callum, I spoke to Glenn and Callum from Red Tinted Glasses reviewing the Celtic game the other day, so big shout out to them boys. They're doing a cracking job with the Aberdeen stuff, and they're really riding on this Stephen Glass supernova, as they call it, and they're really looking forward to next season. You've gone for Aberdeen to win 2-0. I've went for them to win 2-1. I think we're all in agreement here that in this New Firm derby, as Russell put it, Aberdeen should come out on top.
No, absolutely. I think with Stephen Glass coming in, the Scott Brown announcement as well, I think things are looking up for Aberdeen. Alan Russell, of course, is going to be working there, who works with English FA and is highly regarded as well.
Point.
You know,
Very good point.
I don't think Alan Russell who's working at the FA, he's got a really good job there. I think he's got an elite coaching skill as well. He wouldn't be going to work with Stephen Glass and Scott Brown unless it was some worthwhile. So I think they'll be backed by Cormac, and I think they'll go off to a flyer against
Have you seen him? Have you seen him?
Absolutely.
Handsome. Annoyingly handsome.
Not as handsome as you, Russell.
Well, you know, I'm more obscure. He's a good-looking boy, him. He's and a good-looking boy leaving, as you rightfully point out, a cushy job. It's got to be at the English FA. To go to Aberdeen tells you they've got big plans. And I just think that now Glass is now in the job, there's just that wee wave of optimism. Imagine if there was fans. I know it's the obvious argument for everything right now, but if the Pittodrie would be full for that game, full, because they feel like they're on the brink of something. But I still think a percentage of that wave of optimism still carries on regardless of the fans there or not. And yeah, I back them to win that, but I don't see them scoring goals. I still don't think they've got that resolve yet.
No, I think when we looked at it with the boys for Red Tinted Glasses, they were saying it's like 34 goals in 35 games this season. It's terrible. It's a poor return. So I think they're spot on. Maybe the one goal in it all round, Callum. Yeah. You need them to get 2, otherwise you're off to a poor start in this Super 7. Moving on to Kilmarnock versus St Mirren. Kilmarnock fresh off the back of a 3-0 victory with a hat-trick from Kyle Lafferty. Maybe the man's finally found his level at Scottish football. St Mirren, I think they had a good result through the week as well. It kind of left John Hughes a bit disappointed, to say the least. Boise, you've went with 3-1. You've went with 3-1 Kilmarnock.
The thing is with the Kyle Lafferty thing, he's the guy you don't want to like. He is one of those types of players, but I also think is so necessary for every team to have, whether it's a Scott Brown, whether it's a Kyle Lafferty, guys that other fans they hate, because they've got an attitude and aloofness that creates division, but that is because they are so strong-willed. And for me, Kyle Lafferty took on a challenge at Kilmarnock he didn't need to, first and foremost. No way. They were in a relegation battle. He's backed himself, and you've got to give this guy his due. And I know you're saying he's found his level. I'm sorry, but at Hearts he was unbelievable as well. And you know what? Towards the end of his first spell at Rangers, I actually thought he was excellent as well, to be totally honest. He's done a mad nomadic career. But I actually think Kilmarnock have won a watch with Kyle Lafferty, if I'm being honest with you. I don't think that's his level. I'm not. He's definitely not capable of playing for Rangers anymore, and I get that's why he was released again. I think after one season under Gerrard. But he's to me is someone that we're just talking about Aberdeen. They're probably going for third next year. Hibs. I think he's capable of being a striker playing for a team going for third place in that league.
Do you know, it's funny, I said to the Red Tinted Glasses boys off air about potentially signing Kyle Lafferty, and they said if that was to ever happen, they would chuck their books. So he's not very well liked up in the North East. Fair enough. No,
I just mean about levels though, Colin, mate. You know what I mean?
I get what you're saying, aye.
They don't need, the politics of it all, I get makes it impossible, but I think Kilmarnock won a watch, as I say, when they got him, and he's, he enjoys being under the cosh. That's why we hate him. Do you know what I mean? That's he was a Cart Rangers team, when we were. I know it's not a Celtic pod, this, but I am a Celtic supporter, I can't deny it. And one of the reasons he got under your skin is because he was so up for it against you. Even when he took that, transferred that on to when he played for Hearts. Remember his volley against us. I think, for Kilmarnock, I would disagree about finding his level. I think they've struck a wee bit of gold there, in my opinion. And I fancy them to beat St Mirren convincingly with him in a rich vein of form.
It was quite funny, Callum. One of the points that was made after the game with Kilmarnock at the weekend, through the week, there was that Tommy Wright had promised to buy Kyle Lafferty a bulldog if they managed to survive relegation. After the game, I think Tommy Wright came out and says basically, it's not going to be a bulldog. I'll get him. I think it was a German Shepherd or something like that. I don't know which was worse to give Kyle Lafferty, right? But can he continue his goal scoring form in the Scottish Cup this weekend against St Mirren?
I'll be honest with you, I think he will. I think he'll end the season on a real high because he only signed a short-term deal there. So as Russell said, he's either going to stay at Kilmarnock and commit, or the more goals he scores, as you've said, the teams that are going for third, going for that top six, will be thinking he might not be the most likeable player. He might have wound up some of our fans and some of our clubs, but I think he scored something like 10 goals in 6 or 8 games. Yeah. You cannot turn down form like that if you're going for top 6 or top 3, never mind fighting a relegation battle. But the Scottish Cup, I think they will go through, and I think if they can stay safe, the longer they're in that competition, Tommy Wright gets his teams to be well organised, and if they can nick the odd goal through him, you just never know.
I'm looking at it and I'm going Kilmarnock to win.
2-1 I've went for, 2-1.
I'm going for 3-2. I'm going for a bit of a goal fest down at Rugby Park. I think Kilmarnock are on form. They're finding a lot of goals, but so are St Mirren as well. And it could be one of those ones that's the odd goal in 5. I've went for Kilmarnock to win 3-2. Now, here's a game that I'll be probably not paying a lot of attention to this weekend, but it's Rangers against St Johnstone, a rematch of the game on Wednesday night. I went for Rangers to win 3-0. They rested quite a lot of players at the weekend, probably with this game in mind. Callum, I'll come to you first. What have you gone for in this game?
I've went for 3-0 Rangers as well, Colin, and the reasons are very similar. They've rested players and they're in a situation where they've won the league. If they can win a double, then Steven Gerrard will obviously shout that from the rooftops. Definitely. If there was to be upheaval down south this summer, obviously Tottenham are going to look for a permanent manager. I'm not saying Gerrard will get that job, but if another job is to come available, maybe at Leicester, their managers get a habit of moving around, then he might fancy that one.
Russell, I mean, it's almost a banker to stick on the coupon,
isn't it?
Yeah, 2-0. It's the banker to stick on the coupon. The odds will be really short, but I don't see St Johnstone causing any upset at Ibrox.
I think you're right. And I actually initially went for 4. That is what I had text to you. And then I changed it because I just think there's a wee bit of needle now because of the instances. I'm not going to lie to you. I've not actually watched back. But obviously, penalties given, penalties not given. I just think St Johnstone have the bit between their teeth a bit more than they normally would. Whilst that doesn't change the fact I still emphatically think Rangers, I am emphatically on the side of the Rangers winning that match. I actually decreased my sort of goal difference thing on it, just thinking St Johnstone will just be slightly a bit more wound up than what they were before because of the wee bit of indifference in the week before, and that's why I'm going for 2-0 on that one.
Yeah, and then we move on to what could be potentially the tie of the round. Hibs versus Motherwell. Both of you have this pretty close at 1 each, but 1 each doesn't work in a Scottish Cup tie. Russell, I'll start with you first. Who's going through in that game?
Well, it'll be Hibs that will go through, I think, eventually. Oh, wait.
Oh.
No. Hibs meant in your head, but then think of Jack Ross and Cups. Motherwell go through if it's 1-1. Motherwell go through. Jack Ross knows it. He's got a habit for that now. That game when they played Hearts, Scottish Cup semi-final, proved the Sunderland stuff wasn't unlucky Jack. That definitely for me. No. I've had a rethink there. I called it. I admit I jumped in too quick, but no. For me, if that's 1-1, Motherwell you back to then go through.
Callum, are you going to go with Russell or are you changing your mind?
I'm still going 1-1 in 90 minutes. I'm going to give you the real cop-out answer and say I think Hibs could win it in extra time, but if it goes to penalties, as Russell has said, I think Motherwell would win it in penalties. I think they would get the job done and Hibs would crumble because the pressure would really eat them up if it went to penalties.
Yep.
So we're going with Hibs to go through.
I'm going to go Motherwell and Pens, Colin.
Well, I've went
Motherwell after extra time. Motherwell after extra time or Pens. But Motherwell...
I went with Motherwell to win in 90 minutes. I'm going Motherwell 2-1.
Bold.
But that just shows you as well, I know he's doing a good job, but no one's really convinced, are they, that I think he's got a lot of meticulous ways that he does. I think he's a fantastic coach. It's quite obvious he's well respected. Mm-hmm. But there's just... What is it you would say? The final sprinkling of magic dust. He's just lacking that killer instinct or eye of the tiger, whatever you want to call it. And there is doubt over Jack Ross, isn't there?
Yeah. For me, it was, when I looked at the stats, there was a thing and it was Graham Alexander. He's won, I believe it's the third highest amount of points across the whole league since he took over as the Motherwell manager. Wow. I think he's won like 31 points or something since he's came in. It's only third behind Celtic and Rangers. So for me, I think he's someone who is really bringing that Motherwell side on. I don't think they'll be bottom six next year. Definitely think they'll be pushing for top six. And it's all about momentum between now and the end of the season. And if Motherwell can get that momentum going, it starts with beating Hibs in the Cup.
See, just to touch on Graham Alexander, though, how much did you expect him to have a Scottish accent?
Oh, aye.
I was like, who's that?
It's the most Scottish name ever.
A voiceover. Like, Graham Alexander, the way you watched him play, the name, that like Scotland caps, I was convinced he was going to sound like William Wallace and Braveheart. Not but it's I like it.
It's like when you watch the Scottish rugby team, if anybody does that, and you see these players come up and you go, oh, great Scottish, and then they come off and they're talking with their London accent and stuff like that. That was a Graham Alexander.
I was shocked, man. I couldn't believe it.
It's the most Scottish name ever, Graham Alexander, and that's the way he comes out with. But well, it just shows you not to judge a book by its cover, Russell. We'll look at tonight's game as well. Arsenal versus Everton. I've gone with 2 each. I think this will be a close one. Russell, you've gone 2-1 Everton, which could be one of the surprises of the weekend.
No, I don't think it'd be a surprise at all. I look at Ancelotti, look at Arteta. There's universes for me between those two. I also think, with all this Super League nonsense that's been discussed, Colin, I think Arteta's came out today saying he's had an official apology now from the board. Like that means anything. Do you know what I mean? That's the club you represent. You know what I mean? No one cares. I think if that is the situation, then there maybe has been a bit of discontent. Everton are plain sailing. I think their players are going to be fired up because Arsenal are the first out the big six to now feature since the league
disbanded.
Since the thing was promoted and disbanded. I think Everton will be fired up by that, and I think Ancelotti, for me anyway. See, if you ask me any day of the week, Ancelotti versus Arteta's, the apprentice and the master.
Callum, you have gone with a boring sitting on the fence, nothing each. Surely this isn't another one. This isn't another game they're going to hype up and then it comes to nothing, is it?
I think it will. Arsenal are just a team that, I'll be honest with you, Colin, just bore me under Arteta. I think he's been heralded as being Guardiola's assistant and he's going to bring this style of play. It's just not happened for him. The thing that sums it up is he's not got a tune out of Aubameyang, he's not got a tune out of Pepe. Like I said, it's been okay. It's the younger players that seem to be buying into what he wants to do rather than the established players. And for me, it's only going to go one way for Arteta in the next sort of year or so. I don't think he'll be at Arsenal in the medium term. I think he's only going to be there for another short period and then they'll make a change. So I think it'll be a boring draw at best for Arsenal or an Everton win.
All he's got in common with Guardiola is combat trousers and cashmere knitted jumpers. That's it.
Do you know when I've hosted a couple of times the Thursday episode of the Axon Bulletin, we've got John Paul Mason on. And it's always a comment that comes in that says, oh, it's the pound shop Jurgen Klopp. That is the pound shop Pep Guardiola.
And by the way, John Paul Mason's far cooler than Klopp. I'll tell you that right now. Far cooler than Klopp. He doesn't cry like a wee baby when things don't go his way.
There's no arguments there. John Paul was a fantastic guy. I mean, I just had a go at you for sitting on the fence, Callum. I just realised I predicted 2 each. So apparently I'm joining you on that offence. just move over a wee bit and leave me a space, mate. 2 games left to cover. We'll start with Liverpool versus Newcastle. I can't see anything else other than a big victory for Liverpool. I think they need it to get that push for top 4. I've gone for 4-0. Newcastle are actually on a not bad bit of form. St Maximum has been one of the best players that Newcastle have had in a long, long time. And he could cause Liverpool a bit of problem. They are struggling at the back, but Liverpool, that push for top 4, Klopp's got that sort of anger and determination behind him ever since the end of the European Super League. I think at Anfield, it's a no-brainer, Liverpool to win for me. Russell, you've gone 3-1.
3-1, yep. Because I don't think that'll be without scares. Liverpool, to me, they're not convincing for me. I know it's picked up slightly, but for me, Newcastle, I think you're right. I think they're a nitty-gritty side right now. I don't think they'll care. In a weird way, I think it's one of those free hit. And I think people have took free hits at Liverpool all season, if I'm being honest with you. They took it as, we've not banked on any points, so we'll just have a go. And Liverpool have struggled to find answers as much as you would have thought. And it's definitely been teams playing with a different mentality against them than what has happened before. I'm going to give Newcastle the due, they'll give them a scare. Liverpool to have too much, in the end it's 3-1. But Callum, not without ups and downs.
Callum, you're still sitting on the same fence because you've also went for 4-0.
I just think it will be convincing. I think Klopp was a very angry man. I mean, what was it he said about Gary Neville the other day? You've had the best paid jobs and you've had an easy life. So he seems to be in an absolute rager. I think Liverpool as a team have been very strong in terms of the players, obviously not the owner. The players have been strong against this Super League. I think for me, they really need a convincing one if they are to finish top 4. I think they will be convincing. I think the reason I'm not backing Newcastle to scare them as much as maybe they normally would is because I think Newcastle now are all but safe. And I think normally you say teams are on the beach. I think Steve Bruce's head is in Greg's.
Have we not just discussed that angry management doesn't work in the modern day?
Well, there you go. I tell you what, Steve Bruce and Greg's, it's like
I'm starting my dart for you, Callum McMahon.
It's like the meme, the Sam Allardyce meme, where he was posing for his picture for Sky. You know how like all the managers have the walkout for Sky, and it was Sam Allardyce going in and making his order at the chippy, just standing there like that, looking up at the mirror. Super. So that's the next one for next season. They need to superimpose Steve Bruce into Greg's. The big game of the weekend could potentially be the Carabao Cup final. We just spoke about José Mourinho getting sacked beforehand. I'm going to start with you two first. Callum, you've went for a high-scoring, rip-roaring 3-2.
The reason I say that is because I think Ryan Mason, let's be honest with you, he can't afford to just sit back. I mean, Mourinho, I think, as I said, I think he would have left Tottenham. I think you should have kept him in for the cup final, but as I say, I don't think Levy would have let that happen. I think Ryan Mason's got to be the opposite of Mourinho if he wants to come out of this caretaker spell well. So I think they'll go out all guns blazing. They might get a couple. I've said 3-2. I think it could even be 4-2 or maybe even 5 if City really get going, because Tottenham's defence is very poor. Going forward, they'll cause trouble. And as I say, that's why I'm backing them to score a couple. But I think City will win because they'll score more on the day. And I think I've said 3-2, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a 2 or 3 goal deficit if City really get going.
Russell, John Stones misses the game after his red card through the week. Do you think that will have much of an impact on this result? You've went with 2-0.
Yeah. I mean, to me, he's a nothing defender. Nothing. Doesn't mean anything to me. I don't think he doesn't. He's the archetypical. What's the saying? Archetype. Of the modern day football. You know the word I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I know the word you're saying. I know the word you're saying. I can't say it myself, so I'm not even going to try.
I was putting him on the spot there. I actually know how to say it. I'm just kidding on. But no. I think Spurs. I think Carl nailed it. If you're long, see when a manager gets sacked, it's something that's thought out over a period of time. You would just hang off the extra week and get Mourinho to win you a trophy. I know that makes it harder to sack him, but if you've got strength in your convictions, you still do it anyway. But he he's the one manager in the world you would back to beat them in a final. You would go.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you would say they will win, but you would 100% say it's 50-50. Now, Ryan Mason up against Pep Guardiola. I've said 2-0. I don't see Spurs scoring. I think they're going to be devoid of confidence because I think people forget as well, Mourinho took over at Spurs. He played a huge slideshow of all his trophies he'd won. I say this to players. And I love that. He did it in the canteen. Everyone's having lunch, and then it's just this huge TV just comes down and just shows him lifting trophies everywhere. And I think that sort of arrogance he would obviously channel in a different way before the final, but still breeds into the players. And they start going, do you know what? He's been under the cosh and he's won trophies. We'll do the same. Well, it's in fact, this would sum up the season. We'll do it against the odds. Take him out, put a rookie in against Pep Guardiola, embarrassing. Not a chance. It's 2-0, and I potentially agree with Callum that if they score 2 goals early, it could end up tough.
Yeah, so this is going to be difficult for me to argue otherwise, but I've went with Spurs to win this game.
No,
I think Spurs are going to win this game.
come on.
Good job you're not a bus driver or the Ryan Mason bus. Nobody wants on that.
Hey, how do you know that nobody wants on the Ryan Mason
I
bus?
like a bus, Callum. I like a bus.
Russell might actually have a Ryan Mason bus ready to go for when they lift the cup at the weekend. Right, look, I'm going to talk you through my idea behind this, right? John Stone's missing, Harry Kane back in training, and Man City have got PSG on Wednesday night. Now, if you're asking Man City what the biggest game is over the next couple, is it Spurs in the Cup or is it PSG through the week? Now, for me, the eye is on winning the Champions League. The league's pretty much wrapped up. So they're going to move and concentrate on the Champions League on Wednesday night. The big teams treat the Carabao Cup with complete contempt down south. I wouldn't be surprised if City put a B team out at the weekend.
So do you think, and you're so right, it's such a great point, because do you think as well, just to add actually more flavour to that also Guardiola, because of his personal rivalry with Mourinho, then also rotates his squad more because it's not a one-upsmanship again between the two?
It could be. Aye, it definitely could be.
I think that plays a part.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if you saw some players coming into that City side that you really wouldn't expect. I think it's Roddy Delap's son that plays up front for them at times as well.
Liam.
Liam Delap. I mean, don't get me wrong, Man City have a fantastic youth academy, right? They've won Premier League B this season, and the coach Enzo Maresca has been linked with the Celtic job for good reason. Is that not one of the buses you've got, Russell? No.
No. I've never drove big bus, mate. I'm not interested in BT and football. Do you know what I mean? Not for a £38 million jackpot. No. That's nonsense.
But I mean, I think this could be the surprise of the weekend. I reckon Spurs are going to nick it. And as Russell said, if Jose was in charge, I think it would be even... I would have more conviction in my belief that Spurs are going to win it, because he is one of those people that just kind of play kill the game. He'll score a goal early. He'll try and kill it off. You just hope that... Well, I say you hope. I hope that Mason brings in that same sort of style, because I want Spurs to beat City, because I predicted it. For the joy of football, you just want an end-to-end game. As you said, Callum, could be 4-2, could be 5-2, but it's not. It's going to be 2-1 to Spurs. That's what we went for.
Fair dues, mate. Fair dues. I think you raise a good point, though. I mean, killing the game, I think, at times is extreme. I think with Mourinho, he gets late again. You know, I know I'm on his bus and I'm driving the mega bus and all that, but at the end of the day, he's got game management skills that have been unrivaled for me throughout Europe. You know, it's frightening what he's done. I mean, he took Alex Ferguson's Man United and took them to school for 3 years with Chelsea. The achievements he did at Porto, what he did at Inter Milan with an aging team with Diego Milito up front, who, let's be honest, it was hardly a world beater. And I don't know if it's killing the game or because it's a different style from Guardiola, it gets negative press. I think this guy he's a cup final like freak. I think he's just the guy that you back more than anyone to win a cup final, and I do think it plays in City's favour. I know what you're saying, Colin. Hopefully they'll have a go and stuff. I actually think it plays in City's favour that Jose's not there for a cup final, because those one-off games are his speciality for me.
Yeah, I've got to agree with that. And just before you came on air, we spoke about where Jose Mourinho's next job would be. You've got him down as on the Mourinho megabus on its way to Parkhead. If he doesn't turn up there, where could you see him ending up?
I don't think it's serious that he would come to Celtic. I mean, I'll be honest, I think Celtic aren't serious if they don't ask him. I have to say that, and I know that gets put up for ridicule by teams from across the city, but I think for me, we're a big club. You ask big managers. He wants to get back into work straight away. You know, what job's available in England? Crystal Palace? Is Jose Mourinho going to go to Crystal Palace? No. I think there's a lot of boxes that Celtic tick for Jose Mourinho, potentially in the Champions League right from the get-go. Who would you trust more to navigate those qualifiers? No one. Always punching above your weight, getting that underdog tag that I think suits him better than it does suiting him being favourite. I think he comes into his own. Was it 92 points he won with that Man United team that were so unfancied at the start of that season? It's unbelievable. He describes it his best achievement in football. I think Porto, obviously, serial underdogs. Inter Milan, we know that two-legged tie with Barcelona. I know we're going back a bit there, but I also think when he came back to Chelsea, he was an underdog and he won the league second attempt. I think, where does he go? He wants to be British-based.
Mm-hmm.
Is there an English job there that really tickles Jose Mourinho's fancy?
I don't think so, mate.
I don't see it. And I struggle to see a job that suits him better unless the only other one you could see happening, and I think, funnily enough, because of this crazy narrative that's now he's a dinosaur, it insults me, stuff like that. But it doesn't insult me, it should insult him, I suppose. But the Bayern job, the guy is just
Hansi Flick,
he
just
wants
announced
the national job.
Yep.
I don't think Celtic can, try and, entice.
Compete with those wages.
He's been linked with Bayern before. They like winning trophies. He likes winning trophies. Could be a match there.
We were just speaking, and Callum suggested potentially the Portugal job. Now, that's got the ability to be UK-based because the amount of Portuguese players that's playing in the English Premier League.
Yeah.
I mean,
true.
That's always an option.
I think it does it ticks a lot of boxes. I just don't think. I know he's 58 now, and I know he's not the youngest manager in the world. I still haven't convinced he's ready to do the part-time management stuff. That'd be my only sort of pushback on that. Although, when you put it that way, I do get the pros. I'm not going to lie to you on that. I think Cal makes a good point. But for me, I still the attitude he's given since he lost the Spurs job is no. I'm bloodthirsty. I'm ready to go back in. And I don't think national manager jobs quite will fulfil the hunger that he's still got, and I still see that further down the line.
Well, it has been an interesting first episode of the new series of the Football Insomniac. If you want to recap the scores, I will quickly do that now. So we've got the Aberdeen-Dundee United game. We've all gone for Aberdeen to win. Kilmarnock-St Mirren, we've all gone for Kilmarnock to win. Rangers versus St Johnstone, we've all agreed it will be a comfortable Rangers victory. The Hibs-Motherwell game, I've went for Motherwell to win in 90 minutes. Russ, you've went for... Sorry, not Russ. Russell, sorry. We've already spoke about this. We spoke about this.
I'm leaving.
You've went for Motherwell to win in extra time. Callum, he's still Hibs?
Motherwell Pens. Motherwell Pens.
We managed to talk him round. We're saving a bit of space on this fence for me and Callum to be on for the Arsenal-Everton game for a draw. 2-1 to Everton for Russell. Yep. Liverpool, we've all agreed, will be a bit of a hopefully one-sided game for Liverpool going on the scores that we've got. And I'm the only one to predict that Spurs will win the Carabao Cup at the weekend. You can put on your own results in the comment section under the video, and we'll take a look through it and we'll see who has the most amount of results when we come back next Friday to review next weekend's games. Russell, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on TFI, the first evening episode.
I hope everyone backs this movement, man. I think you two together is a really good combo. I think the show was already going from strength to strength. You've had some amazing guests calling. Fair play to you. Callum's got experience in that field as well. I think putting the two together is really, really cool. And I hope anyone that watches starts tuning in every Friday, man, because I certainly will be. Nice one.
You can't ask for much better than that. Callum, it's been a not bad debut.
I've enjoyed it. As you know, Colin, it was a wee bit of a nightmare at first. I had to use my phone instead of the normal setup I've got. But we've got round it. We've went through, and it's been fantastic. And I look forward to the next one already.
And to everyone
Nice
who's been
one,
in the
man.
comment section on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitter/Periscope, thank you very much for getting involved. Leave the video a big thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube. Leave a comment. That really helps. It gets the news out there. Tell your friends. Tell the people you don't even like about the podcast. Let's get the viewing figures up. We'll be back. Me and Callum will be back next Friday at 6 p.m. We'll have a guest. We don't know who it'll be yet. Maybe it'll be Russell. Depends on what he's doing. Is the snooker finished next Friday, Russell?
Friday night
Is the
can be
snooker
pretty
finished
hot
next
for
week?
me, mate. Friday night can
man.
be pretty hot for me, mate. No, I'll come on if you want, man. Of course I would.
We'll wait and see if the pubs are open, and we'll see how that one goes. But no, thanks to everyone who's been watching. This has been the Football Insomniac. Until next week, everyone, please stay safe, and we'll see you